Hello, it is another Sunday and I'm super delighted to have you back. Do not forget, even though work begins on Monday, the week actually starts on Sunday. So take a bit of time to lay out your week. Welcome back to another episode of the series on how emotion drives or sabotages success. We had listed 4 categories of information that the emotional brain needs to store in order to keep us alive, healthy, safe, happy, and thriving. Earlier, we have also discussed 2 of those categories, pleasure and pain. Today, we'll be talking about the 3rd category, which is our belief systems. These include a set of information that we have been culturally conditioned to believe. And when I talk about cultural conditioning, I mean spiritual conditionings, physical conditionings, which include our concepts of beauty, spiritual conditionings or spiritual cultures, which include our religious beliefs, our social cultures or conditionings, which include how we treat people, how we see the elderly and things like that. Our financial culture or financial conditioning, which includes our concept of money, social culture, emotional culture, vocational culture, our attitude to work and things like that. These sets of information are things that we have been conditioned over time to believe, and we access them through what we have been taught and are still being taught, the traditions that are practiced around us, the associations we keep, the kind of books we read, the kind of contents we watch on television, social media, the kind of news that we listen to. These are some of the things that build into our belief systems, the kind of family upbringing that we had, the kind of things that are modeled to us, either by our teachers, our parents, our elderly ones, our colleagues, our friends, all kinds of people. The brain saves these informations as key elements on how to understand, deal with, and generally navigate our world. And you know, these information also, that our belief systems metamorphose into what is called unconscious biases. These unconscious biases determine how we act, react, and respond to our world. You know, the problem with unconscious biases is that they are unconscious. So we really do not even know that they are dictating or determining our behaviors, our words, and things like that. They have become a part of us. And unfortunately, even when we know better, we begin to hear better. Our default patterns include our habits, the things that the brain is already used to doing. Because if you remember our earlier lectures, the brain draws from known patterns when there is pressure, because the reasoning brain does not do very well under pressure. So when we are under pressure, the limbic system of the brain shuts down the reasoning system and we act from patterns that we already know. Our emotional brain inspires us and takes resources from patterns that we already know to respond to our situation. So it becomes very important that we are deliberate with the kind of information that we access and allow into us, because these are the patterns, the systems, the views that unconsciously determine our responses and our actions. For instance, some people, when they're introduced to people, oh, she's Igbo, he's Yoruba, are thinking Nyamere, Ofe Manu. You're already thinking about all the things you were taught that Igbos and Yorubas are. And so you systematically shut down and respond to them in those ways. Our fear patterns, our work patterns, our relationship patterns, our attitude to work, everything in our lives usually driven by our unconscious biases. For instance, you see a cat and you're thinking, oh, what a beautiful creature. Another person sees the cat and is thinking, blood of Jesus, witch, wizard. Or you graduate with someone. One person is willing and ready to take any job and prove their mettle. Another person is reluctant to even get out of bed in the morning. Unconscious biases, things that we were taught, patterns that were shown us, traditions that were practiced around us. For instance, if you went to school in your formative years, probably primary and secondary school, in a school where the social culture is driven by aggression and confrontation, you get married. If you're a woman, you get to hear all those advice about be patient, don't respond to your husband in a rude or angry manner, and things like that. And religiously, you're determined to practice these things that your mothers have taught you. And then you get into the marriage. The first issue, you're screaming down everywhere, shouting abuses, and being very confrontational of the person's personality rather than of the issue at hand. At the end of that problem, in your silent moment, you're thinking, oh, how did I do that? That's so sad. I'm never going to do this again. Second time, the same thing. Third time, the same thing. Fourth time, the same thing. Remember, we had said earlier, the reasoning brain does not do very well during pressure or dangerous situations. So the limbic system of the brain would usually shut it down, and the emotional brain begins to act out of the patterns that are already stored in your brain. So next time when you act in a certain manner, think about the cultural conditions that you have passed through, things that you have watched, heard, seen, acted around you, etc. I will stop here this week. Next week, we're going to talk about things that we can do to unlearn dangerous patterns and relearn functional patterns. And until I come your way again next week, be well and live your best life.